You are listening to the Love Unplugged podcast, episode 49. Today on Self Saturdays, I am sharing my own personal journey to finding my purpose. It's been an interesting journey, I'm not going to lie. There's been some bumps and tears, but it's been a lot of fun. So grab yourself a cup of organic tea and let's jump on in. You are listening to Love Unplugged, a podcast focused on love in all its forms. I'm your host, Jessica Fergon, hopeful romantic and founder of Project Love. I found that too often love is set aside or taken for granted, and we tend to forget how to care for ourselves and our important relationships in the day-to-day chaos. So let's slow down, tune in, and begin our journey of rediscovering love. From honest heart-to-heart conversations with real couples and knowledgeable guests to deep dive reviews of new products and services that will help you feel beautiful inside and out. If you're looking for relatable advice or wanting to be inspired by real-life love stories, you've come to the right place. Without further ado, let's get to it. Hello, loves, and welcome back to another episode of Self Saturdays with me, your host and guest, all in one. These episodes are very special to me just because I get to share my own personal journey with you guys, and that is not something that I do very often. For those that know me well, they know that I'm a little bit more guarded. I'm a little bit more closed off, especially with people that I don't know. So I'm trying to push myself outside of my comfort zone, which I think we should all do regularly, and trying to get personal with you guys, and hopefully my journey will help you guys in yours. But to help me today, I am sipping on my favorite Whoosh wellness tea, which is me time. It helps kind of calm my nerves a little bit. And I have some essential oils going in my Vitruvi diffuser. So I have lavender. So that also helps with some nerves. So I'm hoping that that's going to help me kind of get through this episode and to share more about myself and to feel more relaxed doing so. But like I said, today's episode is all about my own personal journey to finding my purpose. And my journey started way back in my teens. So those that know me know that I'm a planner. I love planning. I love details. I love checklists. I love organization. All of it is just so innately natural to me. It's always just been something that I've been known for in my group of friends. I would do all the planning, all of the organization for anything that we were doing, including trips. And one kind of sticks out in my mind just to show you how far I went with this. But, Vegas trips are supposed to be fun, right? They're supposed to be kind of like, go with the flow, see what you feel like doing, wake up when you want, go to bed super late and whatnot. But what I did is I actually made an agenda that detailed every single waking hour of our days, what we were going to be doing every single day, where we were going to be eating for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, what nightclubs we were going to go to, the times we were going to wake up, the times we were going to go to bed, like the whole 9 yards. It was kind of pathetic looking back now, but I loved it. It was just something that I loved doing, and I'm glad that my friend who came along with me on that trip enjoyed it as well, because that could have been a nightmare for someone who didn't. But then in 2001, the Wedding Planner movie came out. And this was something that kind of changed everything for me. It sparked something in me that I didn't know really existed out there. So I love, obviously, planning, details, checklists, all that. But I also love love. I've always loved love. I've always loved weddings and everything involved with it. When I was really young, I used to walk the halls of our house with a bed sheet or a blanket wrapped around my neck or my waist, pretending it was the train of a gown or a veil, and I would just walk around down the stairs, back up the stairs, down the hallways, and I just loved how the long sheets kind of trailed behind me like a gown or a veil. It was just so magical, and I used to play with dolls and pretend they were getting married all the time. It was such a thing for me. I don't know where that love came from, because at a young age, I didn't even really know what that was, really. But anyways, seeing the Wedding Planner movie kind of ignited this spark in me that made me realize I can actually do or include everything that I love all into one career. So I could be planning being very detailed, organized, helping people with their love story and on the most important day of their lives and, witnessing true love. And it was just like match made in heaven, like, oh my God. And obviously the movie makes the whole career seem like it's the best thing in the world. And I would meet my own Matthew McConaughey and, live happily ever after as well. And yeah, the movie is nothing like it is in real life. I'm not going to lie. The job is hard, and I tip my hat off to any wedding planner because it is a very stressful, difficult job. There's a lot of joy in it. It's an amazing career. I think it's just fantastic, but it's a lot of work. And you're dealing with a lot of different personalities. You're working 19-hour days. There's a lot of stress involved. You're having to wear a lot of different hats. Maybe one day you have to be a therapist. You have to help them manage money. Like, it's the whole 9 yards, everything all in one, I find. And unfortunately, I had an experience with one of my clients, which was my last client, unfortunately. She was a friend as well, and it was just not the best experience. So in that moment, I realized that I needed to take a step away from my career because I felt like the love that I once had for what I did was diminishing, and I didn't want to lose it entirely just because of this one experience. So what I did is I actually channeled my energy into a day job, and somehow a position opened up for managing projects, and it was the perfect fit for me just because it was like wedding planning for the business world. But it taught me so much. Like, I was good at organizing. I was good at checklists and like all that stuff. But this job actually developed my skill set to a whole other level. I worked on large scale, multiple company projects. I was able to develop a skill set of speaking to a group of people and training them on whole new systems and new processes. I was able to refine my skill of documentation and really detailing how to do something step by step for somebody who didn't know. The checklists that I would have to create for these projects were insanely huge because they involved every single department of these companies and everything that was entailed in rolling out whatever changes that we were doing. It was insane. The people that I was mentored by, the people that I worked with, I learned so much from. It was the best experience for me because it really helped me develop my skill set to a whole other level that I don't think I would have ever had the opportunity to on my own. So that's something that I'm going to be forever thankful for. But from there, there's a lot of things that happened on the personal side. And at that point, I experienced a major burnout just because of what I was experiencing on my personal side of life, and then just working, managing projects and whatnot. I really came to a boiling point. And when I was in wedding planning, I always wanted to eventually have a magazine. I loved the whole concept of having, beautiful inspiration to help people, dream up their weddings and make it uniquely like their own based on their love story and all of that. So at that point where I was like basically rock bottom in my world, I decided I needed to do something for me. So I started my wedding blog. Now, I hadn't been planning in many years, so it was still kind of like, it didn't 100% feel right, but I wanted it for so long that I had to just start with something. So I started my wedding blog. I had no idea what I was doing. I just started. It was not perfect. I'm not going to lie. For somebody who's very type A, who likes everything kind of perfect, I was a nightmare, but I had really good support people around me that just encouraged me and just, told me just start. And then as you go, you can determine exactly how you want it to look and how you want it to feel and what you want to do with it and whatnot, but just start. So that's what I did. And it was called Revue Blanc, just because I'm French and I wanted a French name. And it was great. It was an amazing experience. I got to meet with amazing vendors that I respect so much in the industry. I got to meet amazing people and it just opened my eyes. I interviewed them. I did videos, and then I started doing these other videos that I really loved because I just got to hear more real life love stories. So I started doing these videos with real life couples as well as vendors and just talking about their love story. So kind of like When Harry Met Sally style. So I loved doing this because who doesn't love to hear real life love stories, right? So from there, it just kind of started evolving and I started realizing, okay, this could actually turn into something, I could see myself doing this long term. I could see myself turning this into a business one day. I've been doing this for a little while now on my own and I'm kind of stumbling through all the parts and what I need to be doing. I need to get someone to help me and to kind of guide me. So that's where I reached out to Erin Souza, who in Vancouver here, she helps, she works in social media marketing and all that stuff, but she also offers some coaching one-on-one to help anybody who has questions and things like that from a business aspect. So I had some meetings with her and, we would go through everything that I was doing and she'd give me tips and advice and all that stuff. And then I had a meeting with her where I was like, this is kind of a list of what I think I could be doing goals-wise down the road. And she looked at my list and she's like, you need to start a podcast now. This is what you need to focus on. So, I had the podcast on my list, but it wasn't necessarily something I was really interested in doing, only because I hate speaking into microphones. I really hate it, which really sounds so stupid because I'm doing it right now and I do it all the time now and it's not as bad. I still get a little nervous, but it's not as bad as it used to be. So as soon as she said that, I was like, frack. All right, I'm going to do it. And the reason why I was able to jump in head first without, talking myself out of it is my day job forced me outside of my comfort zone so much that I was so used to no longer thinking about it and to just jumping in. The moment that you start to think about it is the moment that you're going to talk yourself out of it. To be honest, that's how it always happened with me. The more that I thought about it, the more I would tell myself why I couldn't do it. Everything under the sun and the moon and the stars is what would stop me from actually doing what I thought I should be doing. So jumped in head first and I started Love Unplugged. And Love Unplugged began by sharing love stories with real couples, talking about self-love, just basically love in general. And from there, I still had the wedding blog and it was still somewhat tied together as well because it was all basically based off of love. And I kept feeling like there was resistance with the blog. And I just didn't feel like it was where I needed to be anymore. I wasn't a wedding planner. I hadn't been in quite some time now. And I wasn't getting married myself. I always felt like it was kind of like you would have the community or the people following you for a period of time. And then once they were married, they really no longer needed to follow you because you were just talking about weddings. So I always felt very conflicted about the wedding planning blog. It didn't feel 100% right, even though it was something that I had dreamed about for so long. And the podcast was starting to be where I felt more comfortable because it was a place where, yes, I was still talking about relationships, which I think that we all need to learn from other relationships on how we can nurture our own relationships because, I think we're all kind of going through similar things, maybe with some different details, but we're all in it together and I think we can all learn from each other. So I love that aspect. But self-love was the one aspect that I was working on quite heavily during that time, even up until now. And I really loved that I was focusing on that because it was where I was at in life. And so I decided to shift my blog to now focus more on relationships, self-love, love in general. So it could be your relationship with your business, your career. It could be a relationship with your partner, yourself, your family, your friends, your passion, your hobbies, whatever love you had. It was just all encompassing all of them into one podcast and one blog. So that's where I decided to change my blog to Project Love. So that's where it's been so far. And I've I've loved it. I do love it so much. But I kept listening to all these podcasts because I was like, something's still missing. Something just still doesn't feel 100% yet. And this one podcast, I think it was with Jenna Kutcher, because I love Jenna Kutcher. I'm not going to lie. I listen to all her podcasts. I especially love her solo shows because there's just something about her energy, and the way that she shares her knowledge is just so inspiring to me. But she was talking about finding your niche, finding what you're good at. And all this time, I've always been wondering, I'm like, I don't know what I'm good at. Like, I don't cook. You definitely don't want to learn cooking from me. I burn everything. I'm really like, I don't have like crazy skills, like nothing that I could think right off the top of my head that people would want to learn from me. Like, what could I teach? What could I share with people? Like, it never really stuck out to me. And I always kind of wondered, yeah, I could talk about self-love. I could do all that, but what am I going to teach? Right now I'm just sharing other people's advice on the podcast and other people's experiences. But what do I bring to the table? What can I share with everybody? What comes naturally to me that I can teach other people to do that may not know how to do it themselves? And it was on this podcast, and I was actually in the shower when I was listening to this podcast, because that's usually when I listen to podcasts. And it just kind of hit me, which I felt really stupid after because it was like right in front of my face this whole time. But I love planning. I love details. I live for organization. I love goal setting. I love figuring out what your purpose and your vision is. These things I live for. And through my own journey, I love talking about self-love. I love talking about how we can deepen that connection with ourselves, because I think that the relationship you have with yourself really sets the tone for everything else in your life. Through my own experience, I've learned how to find harmony in my life because I work a lot and I need a personal life. I need downtime. I need time to reset and to nurture myself. I've learned a lot on my own journey, and I feel like, these are all things that I can share with other people. And, finding that was like a light bulb moment for me. It was really like, wow, like these things that were right in front of me this whole time that just come naturally to me that I'm so passionate about, I can share with everybody else. This is what I am here for. So that has been my journey, and that is where I am at today. And I definitely think that as I continue my journey, things will evolve, things will need to get adjusted just like they have in the past as well. And I think it's super important to be open to that. But if you are trying to find your purpose, this is kind of my tips for you a little bit. So to start your journey, don't wait. Just start. Just start somewhere. Even if you don't think that it's 100% what you really want to do, just start. Because it's a journey of basically self-discovery, I feel. The more that you push yourself outside of your comfort zone, the more that you try things, the more you're going to learn about yourself and what you love, what your values are, what you're passionate about, what you're naturally good at, what comes naturally to you. And I think that it's going to evolve over time. It might take a little bit of time, just like it took with me, or it might happen super quick for you, which, I think that's super awesome. Embrace the messiness. It's not always an easy journey. For me, it's definitely because it's a self-discovery journey. You need to do the inner work as well to help navigate any blocks that come up, any fears, limiting beliefs that you may encounter as well. You need to be able to handle those and not let them take you off your course. I also encourage you to write down what your values are and adjust them as you go through your process of discovering what you love. I think writing down what you love doing is super important. That's what I did as well many times. Obviously, I took a shower with Jenna Kutcher to realize the end result, but I did do a lot of lists, a lot of brainstorming lists where I would write down everything that I love doing, everything that I've been successful at doing in the past. So what have I done really, really well? Allowing yourself to pivot is another one. So I've pivoted several times down my journey, and I always used to resist it. But then I realized that I needed to just embrace that and allow myself the space to pivot when it needed to happen. And it was okay that I changed my mind. It's okay that I no longer do wedding planning. That's in the past and I'm now doing something else. It's okay that I started out with a wedding blog and then it changed into self-love and relationships and whatnot, and now it's changing again. That's okay. That's my journey, and it's my self-discovery journey that I'm learning more about myself, and I'm defining exactly what I can share with the world and what that is. And I think it's super important to allow yourself to pivot whenever you discover something new about yourself. And another thing is getting help from friends. So reaching out to people that you are super close with, people that really know you well, and asking them for their feedback on you. So they're seeing things from a whole different angle. And, I got some feedback from someone this weekend that really surprised me, and it was exactly what I needed to hear in the moment. But you never realize the impact that you have on other people and what you are bringing to their life, right? You're always kind of looking inward, but you don't always realize what you're putting out and how it impacts other people. So it's so important, I feel like, getting other people's feedback or insights on what they feel you bring to the table. What do they feel like they always come to you for? What types of things do they always feel like you're able to help with? What do they feel like you're just so good at? I think it's so important to get that feedback. So that has been my journey. That is my tips for you. And I hope that it helps you a little bit on your journey. But I would love to hear, if you are on your journey, what that's been like for you. If you found your purpose, what is it? How did you come across it? I would love to hear from you guys. So if you want to leave a comment on the episode itself, or even send me a DM, that would be great. I love getting your guys' feedback. I love connecting with you guys on Instagram. And yeah. So that is my story for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope to have you back next Saturday for another episode with me. I'm Jessica, and thanks for tuning in today to Love Unplugged, the podcast. If there are any questions or topics you'd love answered on the show, head on over to www.projectloveco.com and share your request with me. If you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast and share it with a loved one. Your feedback means the world to me, and the community we've created is what fuels our discussions here. After all, this is all for you. Join me next time for another unplugged conversation.